On this episode of ResiWeek, MSE has a new outdoor amplifier, selling power protection, and CEDIA announces the best new product finalists. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 133. Just do it.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Harman International and by SDVOE, the platform for networked AV.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv, and today I'm pleased to be joined by Rich Fregosa. He's the principal and founder of Fregosa Design. How are you, sir?
Mellow West Coast greetings. It's been more than a minute. I've been in the sunny Hawaiian Islands for a couple of weeks, and so I'm glad to be back on the show.
Yeah, your life is so tough.
I was
in Hawaii for a couple of weeks.
It was horrible.
Yeah, it sounded absolutely terrible. Next, we have Tim Sinaviv. He is the director of Barco Residential. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for being here. And last but not least, we have Ted Green. He is the editor of strategy.com. How are you, sir?
I'm the opposite of Rich Fregosa. It's 2 weeks before the show. It's Monday. I'm going crazy, ripping my hair out, but I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than other with you, Matt.
Aw, thanks. I'm touched, and I totally don't feel like that's false.
Is on the job. It's Monday. Scoop Green is ready for action.
That's right. We're in high gear.
That is fantastic. Speaking of CEDIA and Expo 2018, let's jump right into our first story. This comes to us from CE Pro. MSE is unveiling a new outdoor amp and subwoofer line at Expo. This is a outdoor IP55 rated weatherproof amplifier. It has onboard Bluetooth, Wi-Fi functionality, can connect to your existing network. It can be a Google Chromecast device, interface with DLNA servers, give some multi-zone control, etc. It also can be controlled via Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant. Rich, I want to start with you with this. Mainly because I believe we talked about this when they announced this. Is that correct?
Yeah, we weren't sure. And I remember originally there was some skepticism, and now that I've learned a little bit more, I am really excited about this product. Everybody who I've talked to about it is, we pretty much all decided that this is something that has to be seen. It fills so many integration issues, especially for outdoor audio and landscape audio, because a lot of times in projects, the landscape and that area is the last to go in. So there's just technical issues. There's, how do you get from here to there? There's issues where we had it just on a project where the area was just concreted over and there was just no way to get from point A to point B. Something got missed. So all of a sudden you have these solution-based products that I think is going to start with the outdoor audio concept, but it just really opens up a whole new market segment. So it's a whole new product segment. So, I mean, if this does even half of what they're thinking of what we've seen from the specs, it's a pretty amazing product all by itself.
Very good. Tim, as we watch this kind of space evolve in outdoor AV, it's becoming something that is, I don't want to say the fifth room, but kind of like, the fifth room of a house, where it used to be all the AV was predominantly indoors. You might have a pair of speakers outside screwed to the back of the house. How has this transition occurred, and what are the things to keep in mind when you start looking at things like outdoor theater environments in homes and things like that?
I think it's an interesting question, and I think it's not limited to just our industry. I think if you look at homes, people have been spending more attention on living outside as well. So I think all of these things come in. So all evolutions are interesting. I think audio was kind of a natural first one. I think video, of course, is interesting and potentially a little bit more challenging as well. If you take one of our projectors, for example, it's not really that straightforward to say, I'm going to make a projector weatherproof. anything like that. That being said, there are certain evolutions that make it more interesting to look at it. I think one of them is laser illumination. From the perspective of, it gives you much more opportunity in where you install your projector, because, you don't have to worry about lamp changes and getting access quite that frequently. I think power is another thing. If you're going to do outdoor video, you need a lot of light. Fortunately, as a company, that's something that we're very strong in traditionally. So we can take a lot from the technologies that we've developed from the commercial space and see how we apply that to a residential space. So I think it's an extremely interesting evolution, and one that we're definitely looking at and seeing how we can take some of our solutions and make them, let's say, more applicable to the outdoor environment. Even if you have to look at protecting the projector from the weather, for example, still with all the opportunities we have in terms of light output, in terms of offset projection and things like that, you actually have a lot of opportunities to create something in an outdoor space. And we have seen some of our integrators venture into that space and create some really, really cool installations with our technology.
Very good. Ted, when we look at products like this, kind of, some of what Tim was talking about and what Richard brought up, we're seeing a shift in design. And a lot of times that's not just because of the design, but because of the products that are available. How do integrators plan this out, knowing that there are so many options out there now for how to get an outdoor installation working?
Yeah, I think, more and more integrators. Yeah, I remember 2 years ago, CEDIA identified outdoor or landscape audio as the next great growth area. And that has really been borne out. Most integrators tell me that they have more and more clients that say to them that their outdoor living space is the most important part of the entire installation. And especially if you're on the West Coast or in other parts of the country where they have moderate temperatures year round, it becomes a very important part of the whole installation. The industry has been a little bit slow to address it. So this is all part of manufacturers starting to create products specific to enhancing the outdoor living space. It's more than just sticking a couple of outdoor loudspeakers out in the backyard now. There's a lot more design going into it. There's a lot more alternatives that are beginning to emerge. And I think these products are kind of an example of more of those products that are designed specifically for a space that many clients are identifying as their most important space, which is the outdoor living space. So I think it's awesome. I mean, I don't know too much about these products. I'd like to see them, test them, play with them for a little bit to give them any kind of an endorsement. But the concept, I think, is a great concept.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our next story of the day. This comes to us from Residential Systems. It talks about selling power protection. And, the gist of the article is going over how you need to look at the opportunity that's available in selling energy protection and power protection, and really walking dealers through some of the questions that you can ask to get into that conversation. Tim, I want to kick this one off with you. When we start to look at power protection within the industry, we know that this is a very important foundational piece of any quality system, and honestly, even any system. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a high quality system. When dealers are looking at this, and Barco projectors obviously are highly sophisticated. There's something, or they are a product that I don't want to say requires stable power, but you want stable power there. You want clean power there. How does Barco or how would you recommend integrators go about having that conversation? Because the majority of us are not, power experts. We're AV experts, but we know that power is important. How do we go about expressing to our clients how important power and stable power is to their installation?
Well, I'm obviously not the power expert myself either, but I think the challenge with power is, it's one of those things that people take for granted. So it's a difficult conversation to have because it's not really something that people think of in the beginning, right? I mean, everybody feels they have power, and everybody kind of assumes that the quality of the power will be good enough. Now, we've certainly been in a couple of situations where something wasn't quite right with the installation, and it turned out to be the power that was not sufficient, or the power that wasn't clean. So I think we need to talk to people and make sure that they understand all the elements of what goes into a quality installation. And while power is not the most obvious one, it's certainly one that is important. And people care about convenience, people care about quality. So I think that's the kind of the perspective that we need to discuss it from. If you're going to assure the greatest quality from your installation, if you're going to assure the greatest convenience from your installation, then power is also an important element to discuss. And I think, if you look at what's going on in the world today, people are also predicting that power will become more of an issue in the future, that there will be more challenges with power outs and power surges and things like that. So I think this is only going to be more important in the future. But I think bottom line is we have to address the fact that this is not something that can be taken for granted, but approach it from a value perspective. This is how having high quality clean power will contribute to the enjoyment of your installation.
Very good. Ted, Tim brought up a good point that we take this for granted. And, the first question that they ask in the article is, you can ask your client, have you ever noticed power flicker in your house? And especially here in North America, we experience that a lot because the majority of our grid is overground, susceptible to wind and trees and all of that jazz. When you're thinking of integrators having this conversation, is this something where, you look at it and say, hey, you should partner with an electrician who can come in and speak to that? Is that going too far? Is this something where they should get a single individual trained within the company to really understand how power affects electronics and how products like Rosewater's and many of the other ones can address that? What's the best approach?
I advocate the Nike approach. Just do it. I think that in any of the mid to high level installations in today's world now, they're pretty much all getting power protection packaged into the entire system. Integrators initially were very hesitant to pitch this. It seemed like an intangible. But the law of unintended consequences, here's what they discovered. They discovered that clients actually appreciated the idea of a few dollars more to protect their investment in the system. And it actually went over better than they expected. Also, if they had any clients that are executives, they're very used to power protection in their offices, in their IT departments. This is a very common concept. So the pitch, in many cases, integrators found this to be a much easier pitch than they initially thought it was going to be. And finally, in today's world with IP addressable power solutions, everybody is waking up to the value of having power protection and IP addressable power solutions for remote servicing and remote monitoring. And so I think power is, except for maybe the most basic entry systems or price point sensitive systems, I think in most of the systems now you're finding more and more are going in with power protection. It's a smart move. It's not a lot of money relative to what you're protecting in terms of the entire system. And if you present it in the right light, your clients are actually very amenable to it. They like the idea of you worrying about protecting their systems. Very
good. Richard, speaking of presenting it in the right light, this is one of those topics that I don't want to say I take issue with, but I hate the traditional sales pitch of fear mongering that you're going to, have a power surge and all of a sudden your entire rack is dead and all that equipment's gone. I realize that it's a valid argument, but it starts that conversation out on a negative point. How do integrators take that conversation and flip it into a positive and make it essentially just not a negative conversation?
Oh, that's real simple. First off, the conversation, that point you brought up, never use it. No, seriously. And here's why. And I'm a huge proponent. I'm an evangelist of power. Here's a couple of reasons. I live in a suburban area. I live in the Silicon Valley. And we are subject to a hugely booming population growth that's starting to affect our electrical grid. Issues with electronic systems, any of them, is not really a result of overvoltage. It's a fallacy that people buy into. It's like, oh my gosh, you're going to have this power surge and everything starts going up. You have electrical breakers for that. If there's significant voltage, you already have a fail-safe in place. Here's the key, and here's the important part. And what I try to explain to people, and it makes a whole lot of sense, is you have now anywhere from a dozen to 50 electronic devices in your house. Most of them are driven by a microprocessor. Microprocessors don't like under voltage. They don't like what we call micro outages. And what a micro outage is the flicker that you see. Now, to a light or to an analog device, there's a little bit of leeway. But to a device like and I explain to it very simply. I say, look, do you have a computer? Yes, I do. I want you to walk up and think about if you took that plug and you unplugged it for a fraction of a second and then plugged it back in, are you going to hope for the best that everything turned out okay? And they're going to say no. I said, that's what a micro outage is, okay? And these can happen dozens, tens of times, dozens, hundreds of times during the course of a year. But because it is imperceptible to the eye, we don't know what's going on. Now, to a microprocessor, you are giving this thing a seizure. And what that does is over the course of the life of the system, you are reducing the life of the system, you are affecting it, and you're getting unintended consequences. Now, your Wi-Fi, which you completely depend upon these days, your television, which has a microprocessor, which you use, your cable set-top box, your amplifier, not so much, but again, anything that's microprocessor driven, what we're focused on is not necessarily when we see a surge. It's the opposite. We want to keep the components happy and within a stable electrical range. That's the purpose of what we're focusing on with power protection these days, is to provide a stable platform, because we are dealing with units now more than ever that require consistent electrical power. Now, if an integrator takes that approach, it becomes a far different conversation. It's a value add. And Ted brought up a great point. Absolutely. The monitoring, remote reboots, everything else, but also diagnostics. Again, I live in California. I have a pretty exorbitant power bill every month. So every month I'm constantly trying to look at ways at where can I be more efficient? Are there devices that are vampire devices? So again, we now have the ability to give these homeowners the option to be more cost effective, to lower their footprint, all of these other things, and to be more responsible for the house. So, again, I think absolutely, if you're taking the fearmonger approach, it's just a backwards approach, because the reality is that I can count on one hand the times that I've seen over voltage situations. Whenever I get a call, it's because it's an under voltage situation. And once integrators start to embrace that and realize that, hey, you're helping everybody, it becomes and like Ted was saying, it becomes a value-added sale, and you're looking after the client's best interest. It just takes a small amount of education and reasoning why you're doing it, especially for the low-cost units. It should be in everyone. And our position is that you get it, period. And here's why.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's go to likely our last story of the day. This comes to us from CEDIA. They have announced their 2018 Best New Product finalists. There's a fairly long list there. I believe, is it 30?
We have 35 lists.
So, Rich, I'm going to start with you on this one really quickly. You're heavily involved in this process. What does it mean to companies like this to have a product that gets selected as a finalist?
Well, as a CEDIA member, that is my involvement in the process. I am very happy to see these new products being introduced. I was very happy to see the press release. What I love about it is that it does show that these companies are focused on our market. They're focused on trying to innovate in the market. And I think it's an opportunity for the CEDIA channel to understand that it is a relevant channel. And it shows I think it reflects from these manufacturers that they see the CEDIA channel as a relevant channel to introduce these new products. And that was something that I'm excited about. I'm excited about seeing everybody here. There's definitely a group within that 30 that I've already earmarked who I do want to go visit. Speaking of, one of those that I have planned on earmarking to see is Barco, who happens to be here, and their new Prometheus 3 projector, which is pretty cool product.
Very good. Ted, when you look at this list, is this something that you can use almost as a like a roadmap of highlights to see at the show?
Yeah, I think that these lists serve to help make some sense out of chaos. It's a big industry. There's a lot going on. There's tons of new products being rolled out. And these kinds of lists, editors have sorted through and come up with the things that they think are worthy of your attention. And you can scan the list and you can find those items that either you didn't know were available or that maybe you feel that, you need to take another look at it. And I think that they're valuable from that perspective. It's a big show, and there's a lot of ground to cover there. And anything that can help you sort through that and be a little more efficient, and help you zero in on items that somebody that's knowledgeable has looked at and called out to your attention, I think is a helpful aid.
Very good, Tim. I want to wrap up with you on this. Obviously, you are being recognized as a finalist, which is fantastic. I know you take a lot of pride in the products that Barco produces. That's likely true of everyone who's either A, on the list, or B, who produces a product. But what does it mean to the company and the association when products that you've produced make lists like this to be finalists and potentially a winner? What does it mean is it an endorsement? Is it just another, tip of the cap? What does it mean to Barco?
No, it means a lot to us. As you know, we've created Barco Residential with a focus on this market, and so a strong part of that focus is CEDIA. And it's not just something where we are taking, let's say, commercial products and just seeing the residential market as just another place to dump them, if you will. So to me, it's kind of a recognition of that focus by the industry, and that the industry sees some value in what we're trying to do. And so I'm very proud that the Prometheus 3 is on this list. And it certainly does mean more than another tip to the cap, particularly because of what we're trying to do with Barco Residential.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's wrap it there. Thanks again for joining us. Richard, if people want to connect with you, where can they do that?
You can find me in the Twitterverse at rfregosa. You can also find us at a coming soon update of fregosadesign.com. After 7 years, you will no longer see Steve Jobs' bio story. Darn it!
My life is being turned upside down. What will I do?
I know, it's interesting. I have people far smarter and more talented than me working in the background on this. And then also you can find us here at AVNation.tv. Here, obviously, ResiWeek with you, but also with my good friend Steve Greenblatt over on A State of Control. And you can always type my name into the Googles and something always pops up.
And we're not sure what that is, but hopefully it'll be safe.
See us at CEDIA 2018.
Most
In a
definitely.
couple of weeks, you will see us on the show floor.
Excellent. Thanks again for being here. Tim, thanks for joining us today. It was fantastic. If people want to connect with you, learn more about Barco, specifically Barco Residential, and also visit you at Expo, where can they do that?
Well, I will not try to inflict the spelling of my surname to people trying to send me an email. So the best way would be to send us a mail at residential@barco.com. It's easy to get in touch with us. And definitely CEDIA, we will be in booth 2127. So I would encourage people to get in touch with us, visit us. And also on the CEDIA website, there's actually quite a nice e-booth, I believe they call it. So you can visit our e-booth on CEDIA and even make an appointment there with us. So I hope to see as many people as possible, and we're hoping to show them some really cool experiences on the show floor.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Ted, thanks again for joining us today. If people want to connect with you, read what you're currently writing, where can they do that?
First of all, thanks for having me again, Matt. And I'm all over social media, twitter.com, facebook.com, linkedin.com/TedGreen, TEDGREEN. But perhaps the best place to go is strategy.com. That's STRATA-GEE.com.
Beautiful. Thanks again, gentlemen, for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter and every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the site, please take a moment to check out our underwriters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.